You're tuned in to Beyond the Known. In a Greek shipwreck, divers recover a rusted bronze gear that turns out to be an ancient computer. In a desert tomb, a simple clay jar contains what might be a working battery. And in an Egyptian temple, hidden among familiar carvings, is the unmistakable outline of something that looks like a modern light bulb. These objects shouldn't exist, and yet they do. Today, we're embarking on a journey to explore a fascinating category of historical mysteries. Objects that, well, at first glance, they appear to defy our established timelines. They hint at unexpected technological advancements in civilizations long past. Our mission in this episode is to meticulously examine several of these enigmatic relics. We'll delve into the compelling, sometimes really speculative theories that have sprung up around them, theories that have sparked the imagination for generations. Then, with a firm footing in the empirical, we'll bring our discussion back to the grounded, scholarly explanations, the ones supported by rigorous scientific research. First, let's start with the Antikythera Mechanism. This artifact is a truly astonishing piece of ancient engineering. A discovery that fundamentally reshaped our perception of ancient Greek intellectual capabilities.
Oh, absolutely. It truly redefined what we thought was possible back then. The story begins back in 1901 off the coast of the small Greek island Antikythera near Crete. A group of sponge divers, they got caught in a storm, actually, and stumbled upon a Roman-era shipwreck. It's dated to around 60 BCE.
Just stumbled upon it, wow.
Pretty much. And as they explored this sunken vessel, they started pulling up just a veritable treasure trove of artifacts. We're talking stunning marble sculptures, colossal bronze statues, and also everyday ship equipment. But amidst this incredible haul, they also brought up this heavily corroded mass of bronze. Just looked like insignificant gears, all fused together by centuries underwater.
I could only imagine the initial confusion. These intricate metal bits, so different from the grand statues. They must have been completely baffling. Were they recognized for what they were right away?
Not at all. Not even close. You have to picture the scene. Divers, risking their lives in very dangerous conditions. One famously described recovering a heap of dead naked people, talking about the marble statues. So these encrusted, basically indistinguishable bronze fragments, they were at first largely dismissed, just insignificant debris.
And the recovery itself sounds incredibly difficult.
It was incredibly challenging, dangerous. Tragically, the effort was cut short because of diver injury and even death from decompression sickness, the bends. But despite those immense difficulties, the shipwreck yielded significant finds. Monumental bronze statues like the philosopher, the Antikythera youth, dated way back around 340 BCE. Marble sculptures too, Hercules, Odysseus, Hermes, Apollo. They even recovered unique ship equipment, things like lead scupper pipes, hull sheeting, sounding leads, the only ancient examples ever found in the Aegean. But the real profound revelation about those specific bronze fragments, well, that would take decades to emerge.
So when did the world finally realize these corroded lumps were something far, far more significant than just junk?
Well, the true nature started to unfold years later. It began with an archaeologist, Valerio Stace, back in 1902. He was the first to notice the intricate gears inside the corroded mass. Then, over the subsequent decades, with painstaking cleaning and, importantly, advancements in technology like X-rays, what was initially dismissed turned out to be an incredibly sophisticated mechanical computer.
A mechanical computer from 60 BCE.
Exactly. It's often hailed as the world's first analog computer. Now, it's preserved in 82 fragments, but those fragments include at least 30 surviving bronze gears. And researchers believe it originally comprised as many as maybe 72 gears, each one meticulously hand-cut with a varying number of these tiny triangular teeth, anywhere from 15 to an astonishing 223 teeth on a single gear.
Hand-cut precision like that, thousands of years ago. It's just mind-boggling. What exactly could this ancient marvel do? What was its purpose?
Its main function was to mechanize astronomical cycles and theories. Essentially, it allowed the user to make remarkably precise predictions about the heavens. This wasn't just some simple clockwork, it was a sophisticated orrery, a model of the cosmos as they understood it.
Okay, so what kind of predictions?
It could track eclipses, both solar and lunar. It did this using a Babylonian-based 223-month lunar cycle, which we know as the Saros cycle. It also displayed moon phases. And quite astonishingly, the orbits, or rather the predicted positions, of the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets known in antiquity: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Planets, too. That's incredible. And I've heard something about the Olympics.
Yes, that's another layer of complexity. Beyond just astronomical cycles, it could even track the cycles of ancient athletic competitions, primarily the Pan-Hellenic Games, including the Olympics. There was a dedicated dial showing that 4-year cycle.
That's truly astounding. But how could it account for the complex, seemingly erratic motions of planets as seen from Earth? The ancient Greeks didn't understand elliptical orbits, did they? Or that the Earth wasn't the center.
No, they didn't have our modern understanding of heliocentrism or elliptical orbits. They worked within a geocentric framework. And this is where the genius of the mechanism truly lies, and where our understanding of ancient tech had to be, dramatically revised. The mechanism's complexity allowed it to model those herky-jerky apparent motions, the way planets seem to speed up, slow down, even move backward in the sky from our perspective.
Retrograde motion, right?
Exactly, retrograde motion. It achieved this through incredibly intricate differential gear trains. These were designed to approximate the variable speeds in those backward loops, even without a heliocentric model. Think of it like a highly elaborate clockwork that simulates complex patterns, not just steady ticking.
And modern technology helped us figure this out.
Massively. Recent research, particularly starting around 2005 using X-ray computed tomography or CT scanning, was absolutely pivotal. This non-invasive imaging lets scientists peer inside the corroded fragments, decode its internal structure, especially the rear mechanisms, and crucially, reveal thousands of tiny Greek text characters, inscriptions that had been unread for over 2,000 years.
Wow, like a hidden instruction manual.
Essentially, yes. A detailed user manual explaining the celestial motions it displayed and how the device operated, what cycles it was based on. It was a goldmine of information.
And there were even more recent breakthroughs, weren't there? Peeling back even more layers of this ancient puzzle.
Indeed. In 2016, another significant discovery came from analyzing the inscriptions on the front cover, the FCI. Researchers found previously unrecognized numbers, 462 relating to Venus and 442 for Saturn.
Just numbers. What do they mean?
They weren't just random numbers. They translated into highly accurate astronomical period relations for those planets. But crucially, these numbers were factorizable. That meant they could be precisely built into the mechanism using gears whose teeth counts were factors of 462 and 442. This perfectly matched the physical evidence for epicyclic gear systems within the device.
Epicyclic systems. It sounds complicated.
It is. Basically, it's a gear train where at least one gear revolves around another gear center. It allows for very complex, nonlinear movements, exactly what you need to mimic the non-uniform apparent speeds of planets in a geocentric model. This discovery really highlighted what a masterpiece it was. It combined Babylonian astronomy cycles, sophisticated mathematics probably originating from Plato's Academy, and ancient Greek astronomical theories into one functional mechanical cosmos.
It sounds so incredibly advanced for its time that it almost feels, out of place in our standard historical narrative. And it's precisely this incongruity, isn't it, that has fueled some of the most imaginative and, let's say, speculative theories.
It certainly has. The sheer complexity, the precision, the embedded mathematical sophistication. It all seems so far beyond what we generally believed was possible for that era, 60 BCE. This perceived anomaly, this jump in technology, has naturally led to some pretty imaginative ideas. Was it a remnant of technology from ancient Atlantis? Maybe a tool brought back by time travelers?
Or the classic ones. Evidence of instruction from extraterrestrial beings. Or maybe a lost, highly advanced human civilization whose knowledge was somehow passed down, then mostly forgotten.
Exactly. The temptation to attribute such a technological leap to something external to known human history, something extraordinary, is quite powerful when faced with something like the Antikythera Mechanism.
Those are definitely compelling narratives. They really play on our sense of wonder. But what do the scholars, the people who dedicate their lives to ancient science, like Alexander Jones, what do they say about its uniqueness and its place in the broader context?
Well, Alexander Jones, who is a leading historian of ancient science and has studied the mechanism extensively, offers a more grounded perspective. He acknowledges its brilliance, absolutely, but he suggests that while devices like this were likely not absolutely one of a kind, they were undoubtedly exceptionally rare, extremely high-end pieces.
So maybe made in just one specific place.
She suggests they might have originated from a single, highly specialized workshop, perhaps around 100 BCE. A workshop that possessed unique skills and accumulated knowledge needed to produce them. It would have taken months, maybe even a year, to build just one. And the clientele would have been tiny, perhaps wealthy scholars, philosophers, or rich patrons commissioning them for academic study or for demonstrating astronomical phenomena.
And why haven't we found more, if there were others?
That's where a crucial historical detail comes in. Metal parts in antiquity, especially bronze, were incredibly valuable, very recyclable. When a complex device like this ceased to function, maybe a gear broke, maybe it just corroded over time, its components would almost certainly have been melted down and recycled for other uses, like weapons, tools, or statues. This common practice of metal recycling would neatly explain why so few examples, if any others even existed, have survived. The Antikythera Mechanism is a marvel, yes, a testament to exceptional human ingenuity, but it fits within an advanced yet entirely human, ancient technological framework. It doesn't require external or anachronistic explanations.
But it's not the only relic from the past that seems to whisper secrets from the future. Next, we have the Baghdad Battery.
Yes, the Baghdad Battery. Another artifact that has really captivated the imagination, presenting another apparent technological anomaly from the ancient world. It was discovered, or at least brought to wider attention, around 1938 by an Austrian painter named Wilhelm Koenig. He was actually the director of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad at the time. He apparently found it in the museum's storage room. The exact original find location, supposedly a site called Kujut Rabu, southeast of Baghdad. Well, that's unfortunately poorly documented.
Which probably adds to the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing the exact context.
It definitely does. That lack of precise archaeological context makes it much harder to definitively understand its purpose within its original cultural setting. It leaves more room for interpretation and speculation.
So what exactly is the Baghdad Battery? What does it look like, and what makes it so intriguing that we're still talking about it?
Well, it's relatively simple in construction. It consists of a small clay jar, maybe about 5 inches or 13 centimeters tall. Inside this jar, there's a copper cylinder. And inside the copper cylinder, there's an iron rod. Now, crucially, both the bottom of the copper cylinder and the top of the iron rod protruding from the mouth of the jar were sealed with bitumen, that's a natural asphalt. It effectively insulated them from each other at those points.
And how old is it?
It's dated to approximately 250 BCE. This places it within the Parthian or perhaps the early Sasanian Empire in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. The striking element, the thing that jumps out, is its resemblance to a rudimentary electric cell, a voltaic pile.
And the battery aspect, this potential to generate electricity.
Yeah.
That comes from modern experiments trying to replicate it, correct?
Precisely. The big aha moment for many came when modern experiments were conducted on replicas of this artifact. Researchers showed that if you fill this jar set up with an acidic liquid, something like vinegar or grape juice, maybe even certain types of wine that would have been available, then it can indeed generate small voltages.
How much voltage are we talking about?
Well, a single replica might produce somewhere around 0.5 to maybe 1.5 volts, not a huge amount. But if you were to link, say, a dozen or so replicas of these batteries together in series, filled perhaps with grape juice, you could potentially produce a cumulative voltage of about 6 volts. And it's this remarkable potential to generate electricity, however small, so incredibly far before Alessandro Volta's modern battery invention in 1800 CE. That's what really propelled it into the realm of these so-called out-of-place artifacts.
And naturally, this apparent capability sparked all sorts of theories about ancient electrical knowledge, maybe lost technologies.
It certainly did. The initial speculation, coming notably from Wilhelm Koenig himself right after its discovery, was that maybe it was used as an electroplating device. He hypothesized it could have been used for applying thin layers of precious metals, perhaps gold or silver, onto other objects like jewelry or small statues using electrolysis, similar to modern electroplating.
Okay, electroplating. What other ideas came up?
Other theories that emerged fairly quickly suggested it could have been an early energy source, maybe for some kind of ritualistic lighting, perhaps providing a clean, soot-free light in sacred spaces or temples. Or maybe it was just one component of a larger, unknown ancient machine, the purpose of which we can now only guess at.
And didn't the original artifact disappear? That must have fueled the speculation even more.
Yes, compounding the mystery and definitely fueling further speculation, the original Baghdad Battery was unfortunately stolen during the widespread looting of the Iraq Museum back in 2003. Its current whereabouts are still unknown. This absence, the fact that the original can't be re-examined with modern techniques, has only further fueled the mystery and, frankly, the more imaginative narrative surrounding it.
And, of course, like with the Antikythera Mechanism, the theories quickly spiraled into the realm of the truly fantastical, the ancient aliens-type explanations.
Yes, those theories often make quite a leap. They suggest, with little to no supporting evidence, that it's perhaps a remnant from a legendary lost civilization like Atlantis, or maybe an extraterrestrial gift, a piece of advanced alien technology just left behind. They tend to completely bypass the actual archaeological context and the known technological progression of the ancient world. Proponents sometimes argue that even these small voltages, which seem insignificant to us today, could have been useful for some early low-power applications.
How so?
Well, they might point out, for example, that modern devices often use significantly less wattage compared to older ones. They suggest that if we can create very low-power LED lights today, maybe ancient people had their own equivalent low-power needs, perhaps just for a subtle glow or a tiny spark in a ritual context. But, the existence of a perceived need and the actual archaeological evidence for the technology to meet that need are entirely different things. The key missing piece for all these electrical theories is definitive proof of its actual use as a battery in antiquity. We just don't have that.
And some artifacts challenge our understanding of space, not by what they are, but by what they show. Enter the Piri Reis Map.
The Piri Reis Map. Yes, this is a truly fascinating cartographic enigma. It's a genuine masterpiece of early 16th century map making, but one that has generated just incredible debate and speculation for decades. It was created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis. He was a renowned cartographer and navigator, and his work was really exceptional for his era.
And we don't have the whole map anymore, do we?
No, unfortunately not. What survives today is only the western portion, maybe about 1/3 of what was originally a much larger world map. This fragment measures roughly 90 by 65 centimeters. It primarily depicts the Atlantic Ocean, its various islands, and the coastlines of South America, Africa, and parts of Europe. And much of it is rendered with, for the time, remarkable geographic precision.
It was a Portolan-style map, right? Which was common for sailors back then, characterized by those lines radiating from compass roses.
That's correct. It adheres to the Portolan tradition. These were highly practical navigational charts used by mariners, designed specifically for plotting courses, using compass directions shown by those rhumb lines radiating from compass points. But what makes this map particularly intriguing, the focus of such intense scrutiny, is its controversial depiction of a large continental landmass. It's shown connected to South America at the very bottom of the map fragment.
And that's the part people think might be Antarctica.
That's the interpretation that's caused all the fuss. Many have interpreted this as a representation of Antarctica, a continent that, as far as established history goes, wasn't officially sighted by Europeans until 1820, more than 3 centuries after Piri Reis drew this map.
So how could Piri Reis possibly have mapped Antarctica, or at least a landmass resembling it, way back in 1513, centuries before its known discovery? That's the core of the out-of-place aspect here, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is the central puzzle. Now, Piri Reis himself actually provides a crucial clue, or at least a starting point, within the extensive notes and inscriptions he wrote directly onto the map. He explicitly stated that this map was compiled from about 20 older charts and Mappa Mundi world maps. Some of these sources, he claimed, were as ancient as the days of Iskender du Karnian, which refers to Alexander the Great. That suggests sources potentially reaching back to classical antiquity.
Older maps. Maybe even maps made by Columbus.
Yes, he mentioned using an Arabic map of India, or hint, and also 4 newly drawn Portuguese maps. And significantly, he mentions using a map drawn by Christopher Columbus himself. This acknowledged reliance on older, and in many cases now lost, source maps is a huge part of the mystery. It leads some to speculate about the nature and origin of those unknown maps he had access to. Could they have held information lost to later generations?
And the map isn't just coastlines, is it? It's filled with other details, writings.
Indeed. It's richly annotated. The numerous inscriptions detail various geographical features, offering fascinating insights into Piri Reis's understanding of the world at that time. But interestingly, it also includes references to mythical creatures right out of medieval lore, things like the Acephaloi or Blimai, headless beings said to have faces in their chests, depicted in South America. It also contains historical anecdotes, like his account of the Portuguese discovery of Brazil by Pedro Álvares Cabral in 1500, which Piri Reis claims happened because a storm blew Cabral off course. So it's a mix of geography, history, and even fantasy.
This alleged precision, though, particularly concerning that southern landmass and its supposed resemblance to Antarctica, that's been the foundation for some truly far-reaching fringe theories.
It definitely has. The central claim, pushed most famously by Professor Charles Hapgood in the mid-20th century and later popularized by Eric von Daniken, is quite radical. They argue that the map doesn't just show Antarctica, but it shows Antarctica without its ice cap. They claim it depicts the coastline as it would have looked perhaps 10,000 years ago during the last ice age, when large portions of its coast would theoretically have been ice-free.
Suggesting mapping from before the ice? or even from the air.
Precisely. This, they argue, suggests mapping by a highly advanced unknown civilization predating the Ice Age, or even implies some form of aerial cartography, which inevitably leads some to suggest extraterrestrial involvement or a lost super-civilization like Atlantis. They point to the remarkable accuracy of certain parts of the map, like the coast of South America, as evidence that the source maps must have been incredibly sophisticated.
And didn't you mention it uses information from Columbus?
Yes, it's clear the map records accounts of Columbus's voyages, seeming to combine information, perhaps imperfectly, from his first, second, and third journeys. This suggests Piri Reis was indeed using a compilation of different materials, not a single, perfect, ancient master map.
And there's something else, an inscription about sailing really far south. That also feeds the mystery, right?
Yes, that's another intriguing detail. There's an inscription on the map that refers to a southernmost latitude reached by a Portuguese ship exploring new lands somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees south. Now, that is notably further south than Europeans were generally known to have sailed until the following century. It adds another layer of intrigue, fueling that notion of lost ancient knowledge or perhaps unknown, unrecorded early explorations. However, it's also crucial to remember the presence of those mythological creatures and some clear geographical errors on the map. These point strongly towards its compilation from diverse, sometimes inaccurate or even fanciful, older sources, a very common practice for cartographers trying to fill in the vast unknown regions of the world back then. Synthesizing the known and unknown, the real and the mythical, is really what defines many maps from that transitional era.
Then there's the light that flickers from ancient stone, a beam that never should have burned. Let's visit the Dendera Light.
The Dendera Light. Yes, this refers to a series of truly fascinating and visually quite striking relief carvings found deep within the crypts of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt. These carvings have garnered immense attention, not because they are complex machines or anything like that, but purely because of their striking visual resemblance to modern electric light bulbs. This resemblance has prompted some really intriguing questions about ancient Egyptian technological capabilities.
So what exactly do these carvings depict? Why do they draw such a strong comparison to modern tech? What are people seeing?
Well, the carvings are quite distinctive. They portray these large bulb-shaped enclosures. They're somewhat elongated, maybe like giant incandescent bulbs or perhaps Crookes tubes. Inside these bulbs, you can clearly see these undulating snake-like filaments. Proponents of the electrical theory interpret these as the internal elements of a light source, like a filament in a bulb.
Okay, a bulb shape, a filament. What else?
What really captures the imagination, I think, is that these bulbs appear to be connected at their base to what some interpret as a power cable. It looks like a thick cord or stem snaking away from the base of the bulb structure. The imagery further includes figures, priests perhaps, supporting these structures, almost as if holding them aloft or presenting them. And nearby, there's what has been called the power source, typically represented by a djed pillar, that tiered symbol, often shown with an ized tree. These are traditional Egyptian symbols, usually associated with stability, Osiris's backbone, renewal, divine energy. But the overall visual congruence, the way the elements are arranged, bears a strong resemblance to our contemporary understanding of electric light. That's what makes these carvings so compelling to certain interpretations.
It's easy to see why these images would spark such intriguing, if speculative, theories. I mean, the visual similarity is pretty undeniable when you look at them.
It is undeniably striking. And this resemblance has led to significant speculation about ancient Egyptian technology. Fringe theories propose that these carvings are nothing less than literal evidence of early electrical lighting. They suggest that ancient Egyptians somehow possessed advanced electrical technology, knowledge far beyond what we typically attribute to them for that period, the Ptolemaic era when this temple complex was largely built.
And the main argument supporting this idea often relates to the tombs, right? The lack of soot.
Exactly. The argument often goes like this. They must have had some form of artificial, clean illumination to carve and paint the intricate interiors of their tombs and temples, especially those deep underground chambers, without leaving soot marks from torches or oil lamps on the ceilings.
And some theories go even further than just Egyptian invention, suggesting maybe an external influence.
They certainly do. Other interpretations branch out, suggesting maybe the carvings depict an alien light source, perhaps advanced technology or knowledge gifted to the priests by extraterrestrial visitors. There are even more speculative notions that it could represent some kind of symbolic energy weapon or maybe a device used for an unknown, powerful ritual purpose involving light or energy. But the central idea underpinning most of these theories is that observation about the tombs. Proponents argue that regular torchlight or oil lamps, the conventional explanation for illumination, would have left pervasive soot residue on the ceilings and walls. Since such soot is often absent, they conclude an advanced, clean light source must have been used.
Finally, we travel to a pharaoh's tomb, where one small wooden carving may hint at a dream of flight, long before the Wright brothers.
This brings us to the Saqqara Bird, another intriguing artifact from ancient Egypt that seems to push the boundaries of our understanding of ancient capabilities and thinking. It was discovered way back in 1898 in Saqqara, Egypt, during an excavation within a tomb, sometimes described as a pharaoh's tomb, though its exact context is a bit debated. It's dated to around 200 BCE, placing it firmly in the Ptolemaic period, like the Dendera temple reliefs.
What does the Saqqara bird actually look like? Is it just a typical bird carving like a child's toy?
Well, it's quite small. It's a carved wooden bird, maybe about 7 inches or 18 centimeters long, and it weighs very little, about 1.5 ounces, maybe 43 grams. While it's undeniably a bird carving, what makes it distinctive and really sparks all the theories is its unusual design, particularly its tail. Unlike most typical Egyptian bird artifacts or decorative items, which might be simple toys, votive offerings, or purely representational figures with fan tails like natural birds, this one has a very particular, almost modern-looking vertical tailplane, like you'd see on an airplane.
But no flapping wings.
No, importantly, it noticeably lacks flapping wings, which would be necessary for any kind of self-propelled bird-like flight. Its wings are fixed, horizontal, relatively thick, and straight.
So its unusual design, especially that vertical tail and the fixed wings, that's what makes people think it's more than just a bird carving. That's the out-of-place aspect.
Precisely. Its potentially aerodynamic properties have been a subject of study and, frankly, much debate, especially among enthusiasts and amateur researchers. Some initial aerodynamic analyses, often conducted by independent researchers or engineers intrigued by it, suggested that its design, particularly the shape of its wings and that vertical tail, could potentially generate some lift. They proposed it might be able to glide for a short distance when thrown, unlike other more conventional, less aerodynamic bird models from the period.
Leading to theories about ancient flight experiments.
Exactly. This has led directly to the fringe theories that propose it is, in fact, concrete proof that ancient Egyptians experimented with flight, possibly even building gliders or basic aircraft. Some see it as a scaled model of a lost ancient aircraft design. Others claim it demonstrates their advanced understanding of aerodynamic principles, centuries before such knowledge was formalized by people like Leonardo da Vinci or, of course, the Wright brothers. It's often cited, especially in popular pseudo-archaeology contexts, as compelling evidence for forgotten technical knowledge in the ancient world, hinting at capabilities far beyond what mainstream historians and archaeologists generally accept for that era. The core idea is that this little wooden bird is actually a blueprint, a surviving model, a remnant of a forgotten age of Egyptian flight.
Each of these artifacts bends the fabric of time in its own way. And as with every episode, we entertain the possibilities. But if you're familiar with our work here, this is the part where we return to the data. This is where the science has its say.
Right. Let's ground ourselves back in the scientific consensus and the archaeological evidence. Let's start again with the Antikythera Mechanism. Mainstream research, especially in recent years, not only confirms its advanced nature, but firmly places it within the extraordinary context of ancient Greek technology and science. It truly is an astonishing achievement, but, importantly, it does not demand supernatural or extraterrestrial explanations.
And recent work actually managed to replicate parts of it.
Yes, recent breakthroughs, specifically around 2021, involved research teams successfully recreating the complex front gearwork of the mechanism. They did this using only known Greek mathematical principles like those derived from Parmenides and plausible ancient engineering techniques. This monumental feat of reverse engineering confirmed that the ancient Greeks possessed a much higher level of mechanical knowledge, a deeper understanding of kinematics and complex gear trains than was previously documented or widely accepted. It showed their theoretical knowledge, from mathematicians and astronomers, was indeed translated into practical, functional devices.
So it's not so much out of place as it reveals our previous underestimation of just how ingenious and capable ancient Greek engineers and scientists actually were. It really recontextualizes our view of their capability.
It absolutely does. It was undeniably a creation of genius. It flawlessly combined sophisticated Babylonian astronomical prediction cycles, advanced Platonic mathematics, and complex Greek astronomical theories about planetary motion into a single cohesive, functioning device. While astonishing, it fits within an advanced but still recognizably ancient technological framework. The reason we don't find more, well, as scholars like Alexander Jones suggested, it was likely a unique, very high-end instrument, perhaps used for academic study, a teaching tool maybe, or for impressive demonstrations of complex astronomical phenomena for a very select, wealthy, educated audience, not a mass-produced item.
And the value of the materials explains their rarity, too.
Exactly. Its bronze components were incredibly valuable. And like most precious metals in antiquity, they were frequently melted down and recycled when devices broke, became obsolete, or were captured. This common practice provides a very logical explanation for why so few examples, if any others existed, have survived. Furthermore, those new discoveries of inscribed numbers for Venus and Saturn provided clearer insights into its complex gear trains, confirming specific factorizable period relations that perfectly fit the physical evidence for its epicyclic systems. All of this is explainable by the advanced yet entirely human capabilities of the ancient Greeks, pushing the boundaries of what we previously imagined they could achieve.
Now, shifting back to the Baghdad Battery, experiments showed it can generate a small voltage. But does the archaeological evidence definitively support its use as a power source in ancient Mesopotamia?
This is where the scientific consensus diverges sharply from the popular speculation. The short answer is no. The archaeological evidence simply does not support its use as a battery for any practical electrical applications. While replicas can generate a tiny amount of electricity when filled with an electrolyte like acidic grape juice, there is zero definitive archaeological evidence from its historical context pointing to its use as a power source. Not for lights, not for electroplating, not for anything else.
And those modern experiments, like Mythbusters, showed it wasn't exactly straightforward either.
Right. Modern experiments confirm it can produce a small charge, but often only if constructed in an idealized way, perhaps with modifications not present on the original artifact, like ensuring proper, clean contact points for wires. Critically, the actual artifact had its internal components, the top of the iron rod, the bottom of the copper cylinder completely sealed off with bitumen, which is an insulator, and no associated wires, electrodes, filaments, or any remnants of an electrical circuit have ever been found in the archaeological record alongside similar jars from that period and region.
Okay, so the electroplating idea that Koenig originally proposed, what's the verdict on that? Any evidence of ancient electroplating there?
That theory is now largely dismissed by modern archaeologists and archaeometallurgists. The objects Koenig thought might have been electroplated were almost certainly fire-gilded using mercury amalgamation. This was a well-known, sophisticated, and widely used ancient technique for applying thin layers of gold or silver. Crucially, there are simply no known, verified examples of genuine electroplated objects from ancient Mesopotamia. None.
So if it wasn't a battery, what do archaeologists think it actually was?
The most widely accepted theory, based on parallel finds and known cultural practices of the time, is that it was likely a container for sacred scrolls, perhaps papyrus or parchment. Maybe it served as a ritual object, intended to protect the scroll or ward off evil spirits. Similar jars, some containing copper cylinders, bitumen seals, and even decomposed papyrus fragments have been found in the region. They are often associated with texts, rituals, or protective magic, for example, related to incantation bowls, which were often buried upside down to trap demons. The presence of iron rods in other ritualistic contexts also points towards a symbolic or ritual use, rather than an electrical function.
And any acidic residue found inside could just be from decomposition.
Precisely. Any acidic residue, sometimes noted, could easily be the result of decomposed organic material, like papyrus, leather, or even ancient foodstuffs stored inside, not necessarily from an intentionally added electrolyte solution. Reinterpreting it this way shifts our focus from an anachronistic technology to a deeper understanding of ancient Mesopotamian ritual, belief, and material culture. It reveals how their spiritual practices intertwine with everyday objects in ways we might not immediately recognize.
The Piri Reis Map, another one that seems to shout ancient advanced knowledge, especially with that controversial southern landmass.
Right.
What's the more grounded, scholarly consensus on its origins and supposed super accuracy?
Well, mainstream cartographers and historians view the Piri Reis Map not as a mysterious relic, but as a sophisticated yet entirely understandable compilation of older known map types and contemporary reports. It's a testament to the comprehensive and innovative map-making happening in the early 16th century, especially in the Ottoman and Iberian worlds. Remember, Piri Reis himself, in his detailed notes right there on the map, explicitly stated he combined information from about 20 older charts and mappamundi. He mentions sources going back potentially to antiquity, but also contemporary Portuguese maps and, significantly, maps based on Columbus's voyages. The map's features, both its accuracies and its inaccuracies, are best explained by his interpretation and skillful synthesis of these older, sometimes imperfect or conflicting, sources, combined with the accepted cartographic knowledge and conventions of his specific era. We don't need to invoke lost civilizations or ancient astronauts.
So what about the big one, the Antarctica without ice theory? How does mainstream scholarship address that specific, very popular claim?
That claim is largely dismissed by serious cartographic historians as a significant misinterpretation. It involves misapplying modern geographical knowledge and projection techniques onto an early 16th century map that used different methods and conventions. The apparent Antarctica landmass is widely considered to be a misinterpreted or highly stylized rendering of the coastline of South America, perhaps exaggerating its southern extent, or maybe conflating it with early European geographical speculations about a mythical great southern continent, the Terra Australis Incognita, which was believed to exist to balance the northern landmasses.
So trying to match it perfectly to a modern map of ice-free Antarctica is just forcing it.
Exactly. Scholars point out that topologically distorting the map, stretching and rotating it to force a match with modern coastlines, is inherently misleading. It ignores the map's own internal logic and projection. Furthermore, the map contains definite errors in longitude and depicts those legendary creatures, the Blemia, dog-headed men, etc., which were common decorative or imaginative elements on medieval and early Renaissance maps used to fill unknown areas. These fantastical elements simply wouldn't be present on accurate, supposedly scientific, pre-Ice Age maps copied faithfully over millennia. So while the Piri Reis Map is detailed, historically incredibly important, and beautifully executed for its time, its overall accuracy doesn't actually surpass that of other contemporary manuscript maps from the same period. It's a fascinating historical document reflecting the knowledge and worldview of 1513, not a magical window into the prehistoric past.
Okay, let's tackle the Dendera Light. Is it a forgotten ancient light bulb? Maybe the secret to illuminating those intricate soot-free temple interiors?
The mainstream Egyptological interpretation sees these reliefs as purely symbolic. They depict a specific, well-understood Egyptian creation myth, often referred to as a Harsumptis myth, which is deeply connected to themes of creation, rebirth, and the rising sun. The bulb shape in the carvings is consistently interpreted by Egyptologists as a stylized representation of a lotus flower. The lotus held immense symbolic meaning in Egyptian cosmology, representing creation, purity, and the sun emerging from the primordial waters of Nun at the dawn of time.
And the snake inside.
The snake emerging from the lotus represents the god Harsumptis, who embodies the concepts of light, air, and the youthful, newly risen sun. It's a powerful visual metaphor for creation and the daily journey of the sun across the sky, bringing light and life. The power cable is typically interpreted as simply a stylized lotus stem connecting the symbolic flower and serpent to other elements, and the nearby Dij pillar and Isid tree. These are very traditional, ubiquitous Egyptian symbols representing stability, often seen as the backbone of the god Osiris, and rebirth or life, respectively. They are absolutely not electrical components.
So interpreting them as electrical devices is basically imposing our modern technological viewpoint onto ancient religious art.
Precisely. It ignores the rich, complex, and well-documented symbolic language of ancient Egyptian religion and art, where these motifs have clear, established meanings within their own cultural context. To see them as light bulbs requires stripping away all that context.
But what about that argument about the lack of soot in the tombs and temples? If not electric lights, how did they manage it?
That's a valid observation. Many tomb interiors are remarkably free of soot. But this is very well explained by conventional methods that fit entirely within the known technological capabilities of the ancient Egyptians. They likely used oil lamps, yes, but probably placed them low on the floor or near ventilation openings, specifically to minimize soot rising to the ceilings. They also could have used polished metal reflectors to direct light. Additionally, and perhaps crucially, much of the intricate carving and painting within tombs and temples would likely have been done with sufficient natural light before those spaces were fully sealed or sections completed. Artists and scribes could work in stages, perhaps illuminating specific areas using mirrors to reflect sunlight down shafts, or by leaving temporary openings in ceilings or walls until the work in that area was finished. There is simply no archaeological evidence, zero of electrical systems, wiring, generators, power sources, or anything remotely resembling electrical infrastructure ever being found anywhere in ancient Egypt. The Dendera light bulb theory relies entirely on a visual resemblance, ignoring the overwhelming contextual evidence against it.
Okay, finally, the Saqqara Bird. Is it a model of a lost ancient aircraft? Proof of Egyptian aviation experiments.
The mainstream archaeological interpretation views the Saqqara bird quite differently. It's generally considered to be a ceremonial object, perhaps related to falconry or avian deities like Horus, or maybe just a child's toy, or possibly even a simple weather vane designed to indicate wind direction. Not a functional model for flight. While some aerodynamic analyses have been conducted, often by proponents of the ancient flight theory, suggesting it could theoretically glide for a short distance if thrown correctly, these same studies, especially more rigorous ones, also reveal significant aerodynamic flaws when compared to actual gliders or aircraft design.
Flaws.
Like what?
For instance, a major issue is its center of gravity. It's located much too far back near the trailing edge of the wing and significantly behind the aerodynamic neutral point. This configuration would lead to severe longitudinal instability in flight, meaning it would uncontrollably pitch up or down, making stable flight impossible.
So, despite maybe looking a bit like a glider, it couldn't actually sustain controlled flight. Correct. Further analysis suggests that the thick, untwisted wings would likely generate asymmetric lift, causing uncontrolled rolling and an inevitable crash soon after being thrown. In essence, while it might briefly float or swoop downwards if launched, achieving controlled, stable, or sustained gliding flight would be virtually impossible with this design. The research overwhelmingly concludes that its aerodynamic properties are simply not sufficient for it to function as a practical hand glider, let alone serve as a model confirming ancient Egyptian knowledge of aerodynamics for actual flight. It lacks the crucial features needed for real aircraft, things like a proper airfoil shape for efficient lift, mechanisms for stability and control, or any means of propulsion. It most likely reflects an ancient fascination with birds in flight, perhaps expressed in art or ritual, but it remains firmly within the realm of symbolic objects or simple toys, not forgotten aviation technology.
Maybe the real message of these artifacts isn't that time is broken, but that our understanding of time is incomplete. We assume knowledge travels forward, but what if it loops? What if sparks of brilliance flare up again and again, scattered across civilizations like stars we forgot how to see? That's it for this journey beyond the known. If the unknown speaks to you, liking, subscribing, and following truly helps us grow in these early days of the channel. And if you'd like to help even more, consider becoming a member at any level. You'll get early access to deep dives like this one, the audiobook Underground, hand-curated wonders, and you'll even get a say in shaping what we explore next.